Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Pioneer Sports Scouting Report. I'm Marty Slaughter, and joining me is Pioneer Sports Prep Editor Bob Allen. We're going to start this week's show off talking a little bit about wrestling with the high school district competition coming up this weekend. Bob, can you maybe give me a little bit of an idea of who some of the top wrestlers are in the area and which teams from our area are going to advance the most wrestlers through districts?
I think when you look at wrestling and who's going to go very far, I think you look at experience, and the first person that really jumps to mind is Stephen Malloy from Morley Stanwood, defending state champion from Division III. I don't know if it's better or worse. He's actually in Division IV. Morley Stanwood's dropped down a division, so I don't know if that's easier competition, harder competition, but he's the first name that jumps out. Chippewa Hills has got a handful of wrestlers that are going to be competing at that state level. Jason Peacock at 152. You have Richie Ostrander at 103. Zach King at 112. I think they're all going to make their presence felt down at Auburn Hills. Big Rapids, they got the short end of the straw. They're in Division II this year. Division II is always tough. But I think Sam Miller can make a run. Kyle Carter, 171. I think he could do some good things. And Reed City has Adam Kerr, probably their best wrestler, and I think he can get to the state finals. I don't know how he'll do, but Reed City always seems to have one guy that kind of sneaks in that you kind of goes under the radar, and I think that would be Adam Kerr. In terms of team, I think this is Chip's year again. They're going to get down to Battle Creek, and when you get down there, then it becomes a crapshoot, and it gets real technical.
You mentioned Big Rapids has a little bit tougher road than anticipated. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that they have now in Division II, not just with a tougher set of wrestlers to wrestle against, but also the traveling and some of those things that are making it a little bit more difficult for them?
Yeah, Dan Sleeper, Big Rapids coach, wasn't a very happy camper. I talked to him recently, and their Division II team district is actually Thursday night tonight. And then they're boarding a bus on Friday morning to get to Escanaba, which is about 7 hours, probably in good weather. And this isn't the best weather, so you're probably looking 8 hours, maybe 9. And they're going to board the bus. And I think this is interesting. They're going to split costs with Fremont. And Fremont is in their team district, who they wrestle first right away. So you beat up on a team, and then you turn around and, hey, let's be friends for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So that's a real interesting dynamic.
Yeah, looking at the past landscape of wrestling in the area, we've had state champions the last couple of years. Do you see that trend continuing? Is there anybody that you see, and who are some of those guys that could make a run at a state title this year?
Well, I think two that jump out for me, and we've mentioned one of them already, and that's Stephen Malloy. I mean, if you're a defending state champion, experience is huge in wrestling. Mat time, and when you get down to the Palace, there's 20,000 fans all screaming, and it's chaos. Having that experience of going through it helps. So Stephen Malloy's got to be in that list. I think Big Rapids is Nathan Weckesesser, and I forgot to mention him the first time around. I think he's going to do some good things. He's been in Division III last couple of years with Chip Hills. He's over at Big Rapids now, but Division II is a little tougher. But I think he's another guy that can make a run at a state championship.
Yeah, I agree with both of those guys. I would add Jason Peacock, as you mentioned earlier, from Chippewa Hills to that list. Looking on now to National Signing Day, a big day for a few local athletes. A couple of Big Rapids kids who have signed on to play Division II football. Nick Baldwin headed to Northwood. Jake Doherty headed to a star-studded class at Ferris State. Can you talk a little bit about both of those guys and what went into that decision-making process for both of them?
For both of them, they both kind of said the same thing. For Jake Doherty and Nick Baldwin, it was they have that feeling of home. Jake Doherty's grown up here, obviously, so does Nick. But I mean, he went to games early and watched the Bulldogs for a long time, and always kind of wanted to play here. And he's comfortable, just like home. He's comfortable with everything that Ferris offers, and that's why he ended up going to Ferris. Baldwin, he got a nice feeling from the coaching staff, and I'm totally an idiot. I forgot to ask him about Jeff Pierce, who was here and everything. But he said the coaching staff at Northwood really made him feel at home, that this was going to be a good place for him, be a good fit, and that was really the bottom line. It was just had a nice warm feeling that they're going to grow as people and continue their career.
Yeah, and speaking of Jake Doherty, he is actually our athlete spotlight athlete this week. Bob, you talked a little bit about him participating in the Michigan High School All-Star class coming up. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what that's going to be like for him? And I've got to be pretty excited to be playing against some of the best players in the state.
Jake Doherty, if you talk to him for a while, he always kind of comes off, at least to me, as not a screwball, but you just see him. He kind of goes out there and goes about his business. But he's very competitive, and it's going to be very fun to see him go out there against guys who are his ability or even better and bang heads. And I think that's going to really make him better. And it'll be fun to watch him at the All-Star game and when he gets to Ferris and beat up on guys who are his caliber or better.
Check it out, Jake Doherty, this week's Athlete Spotlight.
First of all, congratulations on making the All-Star team, All-Star game. What does that mean to you?
I'm actually very happy. I'm honored represent Big Rapids in the high school, and it's a great honor to receive. And I mean, Zach Wiersma had it, Justin Curry had it, so to me, like being named with those guys is a really cool thing.
Why do you think you were selected?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but maybe my work ethic, my good leadership skills, the work I put in for 4 years, and just everything I've done.
When you were selected and you found out, what was the emotion or what were you feeling?
Surprised. I was surprised, but I was excited. June 22nd, I'm going down. That's the day of the game, and very relieved and excited and just happy.
Do you have goals? Because you're a lineman. Is it tough to have goals as a lineman, and especially like in an All-Star game?
Not really. I'm just out there to just show why I was selected and everything like that. Get my blocks and just help my team win.
What does the future hold for you?
Hopefully playing football in college and just being successful for wherever I go.
Welcome back to the Scouting Report. With me now is Pioneer columnist Brandon Fountain. We're going to start with talk a little bit about the Lions. Post Super Bowl depression, maybe. We're still talking about the Detroit Lions for some reason. Let's start off with everybody's favorite wide receiver, Titus Young, being released by the Lions. Seems like a no-brainer. Some of your thoughts on letting go of a talented but troubled player.
I think it was inevitable that it was going to happen. Just the attitude, and it really started at the beginning of the season. Last year he had a great year as a rookie, or the year before he had a great year as a rookie, and then last year he just fell off the bell curve.
Yeah, and then he gets picked up the next day by the St. Louis Rams, and then during this process he says that he's a better receiver than Kelvin Johnson. Just a really odd situation there. What is the Lions receiving core looking like for next year? Are you still pretty confident in their ability to throw the football?
Oh, absolutely. If Burleson comes back from the injury, from the broken leg, I still think they're going to be dominant on that side. They had a good offensive line. It wasn't great. 700 and some pass attempts, and he got sacked 20 times. You can't beat that.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that offensive line. You lose Peterman, a big-time star, started every game for them last year. Also lose Kyle Vandenbosch, two pretty well-known guys in this franchise. It kind of looks like they're starting to weed out some of the older players to free up some cap space for some of those big contracts. Do you think this is the right direction that they should be headed in right now?
I don't think they have much of a choice. They've got a crew of actual first round lottery picks that they have to keep. You need to keep Sue, you need to keep Johnson, who has a huge contract now, and Stafford. So they're going to need that cap space. It doesn't improve the team any. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just kind of a wait-and-see approach with this, but I can't imagine the run blocking is going to be any worse than it was this past year. Moving on now, we're going to talk a little bit about the Detroit Pistons. Yes, Detroit does have a professional basketball team, and yes, they are improving, I think. It's been pretty fun to watch them in recent months after a slow start to the season. But they trade away one of the last key figures from that 2004 title run in Tayshaun Prince. Just some of your thoughts on that trade. Was this a good move for Detroit?
It's a good move for the future. It eliminates a lot of cash for them. It gets them to be really good players here in the summertime when the season ends. Obviously, Calderon 8 points and 9 assists in last night's game. You're going to see, I don't think a lot of improvement, but you're going to need Greg Monroe and Brandon Knight to come up and step up.
Yeah, you mentioned those two guys also. Andre Drummond's going to play a big role in this. Do you feel like this is a team that can build into a playoff team, an upper echelon team in the East? Or do they need a couple more pieces in order to compete with some of those teams like the Miamis, like the New Yorks?
I honestly think they're still missing that big man. They've missed the big man. Ben Wallace was all right, but he wasn't the big man. They need somebody comparable to Bryant Reeves of old. You know, somebody who can get in the middle and use the lane to their advantage and grab some rebounds. I mean, offensive rebounds are horrible when it comes to Detroit.
Yeah, I agree. I think Detroit, maybe just a year or two away right now, but still pretty fun to watch this team. A little bit more fun than we thought it would be. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Pioneer Sports Scouting Report. Make sure to join us next week.